In this video, I'm going to share with you 10 tips on how to stop shutting down during a disagreement, an argument, or times where you just feel negatively charged, or as some people like to say, triggered. So stay with me. I got you, okay? It is okay. We will work through navigating this. Hello, beautiful people. I am Dani Wigfall, your go-to relationship coach. I also happen to be a mental health therapist, creative artist, wife, mom, yada, yada. As you know, we're not getting into those things right now. But I am here to help you grow deeper in love with yourself and possibly someone else. My goal is to decrease that divorce rate and make sure people are happy in their relationships. They're not just in a relationship. So let's get into it. You're shutting down in your relationship. This tends to happen when we don't feel heard, we don't know how to express ourselves so we can feel heard, or it comes out of a survival state in our lives where the best thing to do in the moment felt like keeping the peace and you could survive that moment, right? So it could be a traumatic experience from childhood. It could be all of these different scenarios. It could be a past relationship. And now the go-to is to just shut down because that's just going to keep the peace. And I'd rather keep the peace than voice my opinion, right? But in that phase of life, when you're using it as a survival mechanism, it may not be serving this phase of life if you clicked on this video. So what we learn and how we learn to survive in one season may be the one thing that holds us back in the next season. But that's okay. I am here to help you through. These are my top 10 tips, and we're going to dive right into them, okay? But I just want you to be aware. Somewhere along the line, you picked up this habit, but that's okay. Habits can be shifted. It's not easy, takes some work, but totally possible. Number one, recognize when do you tend to shut down? What happened right before? When you can recognize when it happens, it's giving yourself clues as to, ooh, this struck a nerve or this hit something for me. And I want you to recognize it because once you become aware of what negatively activated you, you can combat it with something else. Or you'll know, this is time to take a break. So first, be aware. What makes you activated? Or are you just reacting off of emotion? What did anything start that emotion for you? Along with being aware of what kind of activated that for you is building your self-confidence. Sometimes we don't believe that our voice matters, so then we quiet our voice. But that is not always the most healthy thing to do. Actually, that is not a healthy thing to do. So quieting your voice, maybe it might not be the right time for things, or you may not know how to say things, but finding ways to navigate this is going to be important. But building your self-confidence is going to help get you there. Knowing your voice does matter, your input does matter. You just quieting your voice or sweeping things under the rug is only going to make the problem bigger or get you to a point where you're like, I've had enough. Now I'm going to explode because all of these things that you've put under the rug can no longer hide under the rug anymore. So in a healthy way, we want to find ways to express it. So point number one is gaining that self-confidence, but also knowing what got you to that point, what really struck that nerve for you. Number two, the second thing that can really help is learning how to express yourself. Now we've gained this habit of being quiet or avoiding or just silencing ourselves. Now we have to practice expressing ourselves. Sometimes we can express ourselves verbally, and that may need some work. It could be drawing, it could be journaling, it could be through art or something creative. But find a way to express yourself and start practicing that because you've already built up a muscle of shutting down or quieting yourself. Now we have to swing the pendulum in an opposite direction and practice expressing yourself because most likely that muscle needs some tending to. And the more you learn to express yourself in a healthy way, the more you'll do it. And there'll be less of going to the habit of, I'm shutting down. I don't feel heard. I don't feel seen. I don't feel valued. It will be, I'm choosing not to speak, which is very different than I'm shutting down, or I'm choosing to state how I feel about something, or whatever the case may be. You're choosing to express yourself in that moment. But you have to know how to express yourself. It seems easy, but when you don't practice it, it's not. And that's okay. But the practice does come in. And I will say this piece is difficult. It's not easy, but practice expressing yourself in the good things too, not just the negative things. So let's say you're a couple, right? And your partner does something really nice for you. Really express it to them. Don't just think, oh, this is what they should have done. Or you feel it on the inside, like, oh, that made me feel so special. But you never voice it to them. Voice it to them. Write them something. Create something for them. Express it. The most important thing is that you get it out. If you can get it out with the good things, you can also get it out with the challenging things. But that just may take some communication skills, some techniques on how to get it out. Number three, breathe. Take a pause. When you feel negatively charged, breathe. Now, this is not the same as I'm going to shut down and I'm just going to ignore and pretend it doesn't exist. No, you're breathing so that your mind can gain clarity. Sometimes when our emotions are just aroused and so high, it's so hard to think clearly, right? So if you need to step away, let your partner know, if it's your partner or a friend even, hey, I just need a moment to think about this. Things are getting a little bit more than what I want it to be. And then I will come back to this, right? Make a point to come back to it. This isn't a moment where you go back to your habit using that crutch of like, oh, I need a breather. And then I never come back to it. No, this is not it. It's just to clear your head. And in that time that you're clearing your head, I want you to write out some of your thoughts, write out some of your feelings. If it's not writing, creating something, whatever that may be of how you like to express yourself, do that in that moment. Okay. And then come back to the conversation. Because when the argument or disagreement or whatever is at a heightened sense, nothing great is coming from that. So it's might as well take a pause, take a breather, and then come back and focus on the problem, not whose fault it is. Another thing that tends to come up when people like to shut down or have adopted that habit of shutting down is this all or nothing type of thinking. Either I'm all in or I'm all out. Either it's all of this or it's all of that. Or I need to be 100% perfect or this person isn't going to get it, so why waste my time, right? So in this, I want you to be able to find what is the gray area? What's a little bit less than that perfect, right? What is the gray area for this? Trying to remove that I'm all in or I'm all out. Maybe I can give 80% into this, right? It's just something that goes hand in hand with like shutting down. It's either I'm saying something or I'm not going to say anything at all, right? Finding, okay, maybe I'll say a little bit of how I feel and see how that person responds to that. If they can't handle it, then we'll take a break or we talk about it, right? This is where that expressing ourselves comes in. So pay attention to, do you have this all or nothing? I'm saying something or I'm not saying anything at all. I'm telling you every single thing that's on my mind or I'm not telling you anything at all. What's the gray area? What's the, I'm telling you how I feel, but I'm not just reacting, I'm responding. Or I'm being intentional with my words. That's the gray area instead of jumping to one or the other. Number five, another thing is you could have experienced a lot of things in your past and might be having a response to those things. And with that, I say therapy would be very beneficial, you know, because there might be a block there that you've experienced from, it could be childhood, it could be a past relationship, as to why it's coming up in this relationship. And there might be some things that you need to process on a deeper level to get past it. So I always say finding your right fit when it comes to a therapist is important. I say therapists are like jeans, right? Just because one doesn't fit you or you know, these jeans don't fit me, right? Doesn't mean that therapy is bad or doesn't mean that that therapist is bad. It just means they're not a great fit for you. But you do need to find your fit, whether it's a therapist or a coach or a helper, some type of support. Find a great fit that has skills in that very thing that you are looking to find healing in or processing through, or someone to guide you along your journey. Okay. Make sure they have skills in those things in particular. It tends to be very helpful to process those things, to feel and deal with those things so you can move through them instead of holding on to old habits that don't necessarily serve you in this season. Number six, this has to do with communication. Communicating what you feel, right? Different than expressing yourself. But letting your partner know, let's say if it's a partner or a friend or whatever it may be, whoever you're having this disagreement or you feel negatively charged with, if it's someone close to you. Now, if this isn't someone close to you, I do not recommend this at all. But letting them know, hey, I'm working on expressing myself. Not everything's going to come out perfectly. I may not say things the right way. That's no excuse, but I just want to let you know. If there's something I could say differently or you would receive better, just let me know. You know, because when you're working on expressing yourself, sometimes you may not know what to say. You may just be like, oh, I don't know what to say, so I'm not going to say anything. I'm not trying to shut down, but I don't know what to say in this moment, right? So you have to practice. How do you get better at something? You practice it. You can't think your way through it. You actually have to do it. So do it in a safe environment, someone you feel safe with, whether it's your partner or a really close best friend. Tell them, hey, my go-to relationship coach online told me to practice expressing myself. And then just for legal reasons, I'm not your relationship coach unless you hire me, but I do give tips and advice for your life. So, but practice, 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 and let them know you're practicing so they can be forgiving in those moments of like, ooh, you didn't quite say that the right way, or whatever the case may be, right? Or this could come off really, really wrong, you know? So practice it, practice communicating, but letting them know that you're practicing expressing yourself. You can even do this before a disagreement or during a disagreement. Hey, I may not have the right words to say, but this is how I feel. And start with that. That disarms the other person and lets them know, hey, I'm trying, I'm growing, I am not perfect. And don't expect yourself to show up perfectly. You're not going to go from 0 to 100 as far as that all or nothing, right? Either I got this perfectly or I ain't doing it at all. No. Give yourself time to grow. Just like babies, they take a step at a time, you know, and before they're walking, there's usually crawling happening and then just pulling up, embracing themselves, right? This is the same thing when you're learning something new. You're learning how to express yourself in a way that's healthy because what you taught yourself before to survive in that state was great for that state in that season. But now you're in a new season. You're not surviving anymore. Now you're moving towards thriving. So you need some different tools for that. So don't beat yourself up. Don't say, gosh, I'm doing it again. I'm shutting down. I don't know how to stop it. No. Take a breather, pause, find out how do you like to express yourself and practice that. Keep going with that. Communicate that. Let people know. The people you trust. Not everybody needs to know what you're working on. And then as you let that person know, tell them, hey, help me to see where I could use different words or things that could help me. And then you can come up with your own thing that really works for you. And then before you know it, you will be a master at expressing yourself, right? In the good and the uncomfortable. Number 7, constantly ruminating over what should I say? What should I say? What should I say? It's only going to hinder you, right? I say get it out, but make sure you communicate beforehand that this is something you're working on. But I say get it out, okay? Don't get it out of anger, okay? But get out what you're feeling. Take that breather and express yourself. Don't think too much about, oh, I need to say this in the perfect way so they receive it in the sometimes we can overanalyze things and it's paralysis by analysis, right? We are paralyzed by overanalyzing what we want to say to make it perfect. Nothing is perfect. Don't try to just live up to those perfectionist standards, okay? Let the reins go. Breathe. You're not going to show up perfectly, but progress is important. Choosing to want to do the work is important. Instead of just having that fixed mindset, well, this is how I am, this is how it's going to be, I'm not changing. Okay, would you want to be with that person? No. Either way, you don't want to be stuck over analyzing something, trying to reach that perfect thing to say or the perfect way to express it that you don't end up doing anything. So it just looks like you're shutting down when really you're just working too hard on trying to communicating that you actually don't communicate anything. And it lives up here. You don't want it to just live up here. Number 8, okay, this helps in arguments or disagreements. Sometimes people don't have arguments, they have disagreements, or they have little just tit for tat things that go back and forth. But setting boundaries for what your arguments or disagreements look like. So we're going to set boundaries as far as we're not going to hit below the belt on certain things. We're not going to touch on touchy topics for each other. And you guys can set what that is for you. I can't set that for you. But set hitting below the belt includes X, Y, and Z. We don't cover these things or things like it, right? Or for some couples, it may be we don't say the divorce word. We don't threaten separation every single time something goes south or doesn't go our way. Um, we don't weaponize certain things. It's just there's so much that can go into setting your boundaries, but set boundaries. Another hint is what is negatively activating you, right? Is that something where we can set a boundary there? Is that person saying something a certain way where we can set a boundary like, hey, when we argue, we can disagree, but let's not touch on these things or let's not go below the belt or whatever that boundary may be. It really helps to set boundaries between the two of you, whether it's friendships and friendships go left, or relationships, both of which this is where you're doing the work so you guys can grow versus being divided. Number 9, focusing on the bigger picture and learning how to love that person and yourself through a disagreement or through a difficult time. So, what does it look like to love someone but disagree with them at the same time? It looks very different than I'm fighting you and trying to defend myself in that moment. So instead of focusing on blaming yourself or the other person, focus on how do we solve or we manage this problem so that we can make it better or make it work for the both of us. And this is where you start to make your relationship your own versus, well, this person in the book said this, so this is how it should be for my relationship. No, you find what works for the both of you. And you guys know my driving analogy. One person here, one person here. It takes little maneuvers from the both of you guys to go and stay the course versus one person taking control or the other person taking control. So instead of feeling like I need to defend myself or I feel attacked, so I'm going to shut up, looking at the bigger picture. Was that person's intentions to harm me? Right? Why do I feel harmed in this moment? Is that what they were trying to do? When you disagree, it doesn't always have to be defensive. I need to defend myself. I need to retreat. I waved the white flag. I'm over it. I'm done. Right? It doesn't have to be that scenario. You can disagree and not argue. You can disagree and learn more and grow from it and create an opportunity of like, oh, wow, interesting. Okay, well, maybe we just agree to disagree. Or what's something we can shift here, right? But instead of going to, I retreat, this is too much for me, looking at the bigger picture. Was that person intending on trying to harm you? Were they trying to hurt you? Is that person's heart? If it's not that person's heart and you know them very well, coming in with some understanding, even for yourself, if you know you're not trying to hurt that person, you're not trying to make them feel a certain type of way, having some grace for yourself in working on communicating. Number 10, okay? I want you to know and believe that you can change this habit. That's all it is. It's a habit. It's a bad habit you picked up, right? And it's only bad because this season it's not serving you. Whereas in another season, it really helped you get through mentally with that season so you can thank it. Thank you for serving me in that season. I no longer need you for this new season in my life, right? So thank it and move to the next season and know I'm not going to beat myself up because I needed it for that season. But now I'm going to shift and I'm going to change it. So know that you can change it. It's just a habit, but you do have to do the work. With all habits, it doesn't just come. You have to replace it with something else, right? It helps when you have something, some type of cue, and then a replacer, right? So the cue is, oop, I'm feeling negatively charged here. Now I'm going to replace it with, oh, let me write some things out. Let me take a break and breathe. Let me communicate myself, but let them know I'm working on expressing myself. Or let me just go for it, right? Let me try something different. It comes with the practice. But you have to know that yes, you can change it and believe it. If you're watching this video up until this point right here, I totally believe that you can change it. If you know someone that gets stuck in this, like shutting down, share this video with them because it might be an inside battle that they're dealing with. First of all, make sure you're close with them. People don't want unsolicited advice. But if you are close with them and you truly love them, share this video with them as well too, because Sometimes it's an inside battle that is just like, oh, how do I get past this? And sometimes we don't look for help. We just think, I got to figure this out all on my own. I can do this, or this is how I am. So I don't know if I can even change this as part of me. It's been so ingrained, right? No, you can change it. You just have to believe it and then do the work. Do the work. You can change this part of you. And kudos for you for having a growth mindset. Or if this wasn't for you, kudos for you for sharing this with a friend, because that shows that you truly care about them, not just when they can do something for you, right? That was my top 10 tips. Hopefully, this helps you or someone you know. If you have another tip that you want to share in the comments, please leave it. I would love to hear from you. Until next Tuesday, see you then.